already know that cocaine was first restricted to medicinal use only in 1914, but that didn't really affect Coca-Cola. The more important law in this part of the story was the Jones-Miller Narcotics Import Act of 1922, which banned cocaine imports in the country. And what this meant was that South American countries like Peru, whose economy largely subsisted by sending coca and cocaine to U.S. markets, was not able to actually refine the coca leaves into pure cocaine themselves, even for sale to legitimate pharmaceutical companies. So this naturally meant stifling the advancement of the Peruvian economy because it removed their incentive to invest in capital goods involved in refining cocaine. And again, this is all still true today. But this law also affected Coca-Cola. The Jones-Miller Act prevented any external coca refining. So all the cocaine in the country and the flavoring used for Coca-Cola, all of that had to be done. All of it had to be refined and extracted in the United States. We could only import the leaves. But it also licensed coca importers, so not just any company could legally purchase coca leaves. And in fact, licenses to purchase coca leaves were confined to only two companies. The first was Merck & Company, which imported coca leaves from Peru and a small Indonesian island called Java, which was just, for some reason, uniquely suited for growing the kinds of coca most useful in certain pharmaceuticals at the time. So this company was effectively granted a U.S. monopoly on all coca-based pharmaceuticals by this time. Before then, of course, we had a whole lot of competitors with Merck & Company, but by 1922, they were it. They were a U.S. granted monopoly. The second company was Maywood Chemical Works, and they imported coca exclusively from Peru for the single purpose of removing the cocaine alkaloid, which they would destroy, and they created the non-narcotic flavoring extract, which was now called Merchandise Number 5, which they supplied to Coca-Cola. In fact, in 1931, Harry Anslinger and the Coca-Cola Company, they lobbied for legal permission to do this in the Geneva Convention. And if that's not enough cronyism for you, Coca-Cola was the only company legally allowed to purchase the Merchandise Number 5 from Maywood. So now Coca-Cola had a U.S. granted monopoly on coca leaf flavoring, despite the fact that there were originally a ton of different companies who made soft drinks using coca leaves back in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Coca-Cola at this time was just incredibly benefited by government intervention in the economy. So when this was taking place, Portugal demanded proof from the U.S. government that Coca-Cola did not contain any cocaine, and the government actually printed seals for Coca-Cola that said, United States Treasury Department, flavoring extract, certified, non-narcotic. And on the opposite end of this, Bolivia was also hostile to the importation of Coca-Cola after World War II because they also believed that it contained cocaine. But they were upset because they didn't want it to compete with South American drinks like Coca Cocktail, Crema de Coca, and Coca Kiln, which were made with Bolivian coca. So remember, Peru was the exporter to the United States. So Bolivia was a large grower of coca, but they were selling their coca to countries that weren't the United States. So from their perspective, by importing Coca-Cola, which was made with Peruvian coca, they're essentially ceding much of their market, whatever is taken over by the popularity of Coca-Cola, to Peruvian cocaine. So if Coca-Cola took off, Peru would just crowd out some of Bolivia's export market. Also, in World War II, when Harry Anslinger was stockpiling cocaine-based products for U.S. allies in the war, he actually altered the license of Merck & Company, so they were only now allowed to produce cocaine-based pharmaceuticals, and Maywood would still extract the cocaine alkaloid, but now instead of destroying it, they would sell the cocaine alkaloid to Merck and the non-narcotic Merchandise Number 5 to Coca-Cola. So now Maywood was the sole legal importer of coca leaves, and it supplied its products to the sole producer of cocaine medical products, being Merck, and the sole producer of coca-flavored beverages in the United States, being Coca-Cola. And the story doesn't stop there either. Ever since the 1930s, other companies had been lobbying for Anslinger to grant them a license to purchase the non-narcotic coca flavoring from Maywood. The most significant of these companies was called S.B. Pinnock Company, which was another soft drink manufacturer. And Maywood, incidentally, was owned by a German named Louis Schaefer. And in 1949, the government seized his company. The government was seizing a lot of companies owned by Germans following World War II. So Maywood was put up for auction by the Office of Alien Property. And the only person who placed a bid on the property was the S.B. Pinnock Company. So with their monopoly on Coca flavoring threatened, the one Coca-Cola executive named Ralph Hayes wrote a personal letter to his friend Harry Anslinger asking for intervention on the matter, and Anslinger actually let Schaefer keep his company. So this was the right thing to do. Schaefer was not a Nazi. It was right for Anslinger to let him keep his company. But Anslinger only did this to protect Coca-Cola from unwanted competition. So he did the right thing for very wrong reasons. And as a final point about Coca-Cola, Maywood Chemical Works was absorbed by the Stepan Company in 1959, and to this day, the Stepan Company retains the sole legal privilege of importing coca leaves and selling merchandise number 5 to Coca-Cola.